Ladies and gentlemen, oh my lord, we have officially reached the point in the year where I do and film the one video that I'm waiting for all year, literally all year, and that is my yearly reading wrap up. This year, I read so many books that the only place I could think to film this video where I could fit all of the books that I physically have on me to like showcase what I read was to sit on my floor. So welcome to my floor. But as always, we're going to start with my favorite part of our, I was gonna say monthly reading wrap ups, that's incorrect. My favorite part of our yearly reading wrap ups, which is going to be the statistics. And this time, I don't have to calculate any of it out by myself because Goodreads did it for me. This year, I read 42,708 pages, which accounted to 126 books. I do just want to point out that 11 of those are DNFs, so I technically read 115 books cover to cover this year. The shortest book I read was a Little Golden Book about Taylor Swift, and the longest was Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I had an average book length of 338 pages. The most shelf book I read was ACOTAR, and the least shelf book was Remarkable. And I gave out an average of 2.8 stars per book this year. Honestly, not as high as I was hoping for it to be, but you know, that's okay. But with the statistics out of the way, let's get into talking about the books themselves. Because there is 126 of them, we are going to do rapid fire. Absolute rapid fire. I pick up a book, I say 2-3 words, maybe 2-3 sentences, and we move on. I'd also like to point out that I am starting with my lowest rating books and working my way to the top. I am doing this because my Notion, where I track all of my reading, will not let me organize it by month, and then the day that I write it in, I cannot figure it out. It was working yesterday and it's not working now, and I can't be bothered to figure it out again, so we're just gonna start with the lowest rating and work all the way up. Sound good? Amazing. Let's get talking about our books. If this were a story, middle grade book, didn't love it, didn't have concepts I wanted to read about, DNF'd it. Forged by Blood, I was really confused and things weren't explained enough. I DNF'd it. A Cursed Kiss, the characters were intolerable, I didn't care, I DNF'd it. The Undetectables, our main character was annoying, I DNF'd it. Jelly, everyone was miserable, I DNF'd it. An Echo of Old Books, I kept falling asleep while reading this book, I DNF'd it. I'll Stop the World, almost 60% in and we hadn't even reached a plot, DNF'd it. Touch of Malice, could not stand it anymore, I DNF'd it. The Cloisters, almost 50% of the way through, we hadn't even talked about what the plot was supposed to be about, I DNF'd it. Off Track, couldn't see anything for me between the characters, DNF'd it. A Touch of Ruin, why did the story go this way? 1 star. The Night House, if you're going to write a book, do not make it go in this direction, 1 star. The Locked Door, honestly, can't remember much about it, 2 stars. Do You Want Me, a novella that was actually part of a series I didn't know was part of a series, so I didn't get rated very highly, 2 stars. The Housemaid's Secret, didn't love the first one, I wasn't expecting to love the second one either. The Killing Hills, Southern mystery, but just wasn't feeling it. Child of Light, started off so strong, ended up going terribly. Books 1 through 7 of the Spirit Animal series, reading middle grade books, I love a good old fantasy, but this was nothing special. Wings, Winds, Cursed and Bound, a fantasy, but not the fantasy I wanted, didn't vibe with it too much. Red Dragon, I wanted to love it so much, I don't think his writing is for me. Wildwood, for being a kid's book, I was surprised about the amount of politics and violence in this book, but it was still pretty good. Strawn to Gold, 70-page Rumpelstiltskin retelling that was gender bent. It was there. Spookily Yours, a much more physical, intimate relationship than the emotional one that I was looking for. Also, what the heck was that ending? Eso Trot, Turtle was cute, but man's motivations were weird. You Shouldn't Have Come Here, I shouldn't have read this book. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, I wish I could kill this book 7.5 times over. The only one left, I guessed it, but Mr. Riley Sager, I love your writing. Love at 350, very much felt more of like a friendship type vibe than a relationship. I don't see them getting married or anything. None of this is true. I've been sitting here for 2 minutes, can't remember what the book is about. Apparently none of it was important enough to keep in my brain. The Family Game. Literally, if family drama and mystery got put together, wasn't terrible, but I shouldn't have read it. Just Like Home. I have so many strong feelings about this, but please stop making inanimate objects into like humans. This was weird as hell. Feathers. A cute middle grade book, wasn't anything special. Melt for Us. There was a weird trope in there I didn't know was in there. No. Legends of the Pirate Queen. It was told in a different perspective from books 1 and book 2. I didn't love this one as much. Little Fires Everywhere. I still don't know how to feel about this book. What in the actual heck happened? Oh my lord. So good, but so mind-bending. Haunting Adeline. So, someone needs to learn something called boundaries. I would have liked it more if he knew what boundaries meant. Seven Sins. Great idea, wasn't executed that greatly. I would have loved more detail in your writing, please. The Silence of the Lambs. Got more about Mr. Hannibal Lecter, but I still didn't love the writing. However, I am now hooked on what's going to happen. Uncanny. Same situation as Seven Sins. Great idea, love the plot premise, but it could have used more fleshing out. I would love more detail. You can write a bigger book. I'll read it. Dark Arts and a Daiquiri. Oh my lord, this is so funny. Haven't read Zodiac Academy, but I feel like it would give the same vibes as Zodiac Academy. Read it for entertainment, not for a 5-star read. Her Wild Roommate. This is one of the first books I read this year. I could not tell you what it was about. It was like an 80-page novella on my Kindle. Court of Greed and Gold. I remember reading the series. I don't know what book this was, but the series was okay. I'd 50% recommend it. Bad Blood and the Novella 12. Bad Blood? Why the heck did you have to end that way? That was not cool. 12, the novella, not mad at it, but because of how book 4 ended, I didn't love it either. Court of Serpents and Secrets. Same series as Court of Greed and Gold. Honestly, it was just okay. The American Roommate Experiment. I ended up loving this a lot more than I thought I was going to. Their relationship was really cute. The Language of Fire. A poetry Joan of Arc retelling. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. An Education in Malice. My first dip into dark academia. I will be dipping back in very soon. The Lost Apothecary. Very much mixes present with past and is kind of like a historical fantasy type vibe. Find You in the Dark. I can't remember how this ends or any of the main plot points, but I remember that I liked it decently. Thriller, mystery, pretty sure our main character is a serial killer, but also a father. Maybe his daughter gets kidnapped? I have no idea. The 12 Days of Murder. This was just rich people drama, but it was really funny rich people drama. And a lot of people die. There are literally 12 days of murder. Lore. I love Alexandria Bracken, but this one confused me a little bit at the end. Fantasy, I think mythology was in there, mostly Greek mythology. Deals a lot with the gods. It was a fun time, and I might reread it at some point. I don't know. A Court of Thorns and Roses. It was good, but I definitely didn't love it as everybody else. Fantasy, romance, a little bit of mystery in there. I'll still be continuing on in the series, but it kind of has like a basic fantasy plot start. Scream for Us. The novella that got me into reading this series. I liked it a lot. Bloodshed, the first book in that series. Dark romance, by the way. Why choose dark romance? Possibility of a cult? That one really hasn't been fleshed out yet in the plot. The Diviners. I think it's like 1950s New York. It's the time of the flappers and clubs like that. Wonderfully world immersive, but very much has a lot to deal with the magical fantasy side of things as well. And the dark magical fantasy side of things. Oh, that was a spooky. Snowden with a Demon. An absolutely adorable book club book. Once again, fantasy romance. A cute and quick read that I would highly recommend you pick up if you're looking for a cozy romance. The Bicycle Spy. Scholastic Book Fair book having to deal with the Nazis, Germany, World War II type thing, but he delivers secret messages for the resistance. I don't know why kids are always doing adults' dirty work, but it continues on. The Ritual. I liked it, but not as much as other people have liked it. Dark Romance College. But is this a why choose? I don't think it's a why choose. Not a why choose, but very much like dark romance. Cult. It's got to be a cult. Not considered a cult, but I consider it a cult. The Poet's Dog. A step-by-step tutorial on how to cry in 80 pages or less. Oh my god. Totally intended for middle schoolers, however I did sob. Not sob, but there were a couple of tears shed over this book. Kids get lost in the forest during a snowstorm and end up meeting up with this dog who could talk because a poet taught him how to talk. The poet's dead. Okay, brace yourself for emotional damage. Sinners Anonymous. I've been wanting to pick up this series forever. I don't think it disappointed, but it definitely wasn't my favorite dark romance read. This one's a dark romance mafia, and he's got a soft spot for her. And I love that. God, I love that. And he's rich, guys. He's like mega rich. Zoobrig, the second book in the Swindle series by Gordon Corman. Gordon Corman was one of my favorite authors as a kid. I am so happy that I got to go back and relive this world. A bunch of like 12-year-olds solving mysteries that are way over their heads, but for whatever reason, they are so resourceful. The Book of Accidents. A lot of characters, very much a big brain book, but it's very good. I don't know if it's considered a thriller, but it's definitely a horror book. Dark, time, warpy travel magic is in here. Not super difficult to understand once everything comes together, but you're confused there for a while. The Sweetest Connection. I listened to this as an audiobook, and it is apparently a novella in an entire series about people in an airport who fall in love. It was cute. I liked it. Quarantine Crush. Another one of my romance audiobooks. I was on a romance bender for a while. It is literally what the title says. Two people stuck in an apartment during quarantine. Please stop calling TikTok flip-flop, and they really need to have a conversation. It is Best Friends to Lovers, though. Haven't read one of those before. It was enjoyable. Do you take this man? I do not take the fact that they didn't have a conversation to like sorted out, but I do like the emotional development and growth that we saw from them. Once again, a romance. I thought that was obvious. The Naturals. I don't really know what I was expecting going into this, but I do know that I really, really liked it. Group of teenagers that gets hired by the FBI because they have certain skill sets that can be used to help them solve cold cases. Duh, I picked it up. Killer Instinct, book 2 in the Natural series. The plot very much matched what we were doing in book 1, but it went in a different direction. Didn't love it, but didn't hate it. It's just here, honestly. Court of Monsters and Malice. This is that same Court of Greed and Gold series that keeps popping up. It was decent, okay? Stop asking me about it. Icebreaker. Fully enjoyed myself. Like 110% fully enjoyed myself. It just wasn't as good as I thought it was gonna be. Freaking Hockey Ice Skater Romance, by the way. I keep forgetting to say what the book is about. Oh my gosh. A Touch of Darkness. Deceivingly good for how the rest of the series went. This is the first and last book that I will probably ever like by Scarlett St. Clair. I have to stop trying. Daughter of the Pirate King. Single-handedly got me out of a mini reading slump. Thank you. Fantasy, romance. She's a badass. I love her. I heard a lot of people say they didn't like this. Go into it with an entertainment side rather than 5-star read side. Opinion type situation. Totally meant for entertainment. Nothing like crazy. Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift. Yes, this counts. You Are Fearless. I still love Taylor Swift. Yes, this still counts. These Deadly Games. I binge read it in 2 sittings. It was good. Couple times it was a little bit slow. I didn't see the ending coming. YA, mystery. Has a lot to do with the internet though. Like a lot to do with online stuff. The Lies You Wrote. Probably one of my favorite mysteries of this year. It was really good. Can I remember what it's about? Not really. There's an absolutely wicked twist at the end though, and the second book came out earlier this year, and I've yet to read it. I really need to read it. Messes Not Found by Dante Medema. Dante Medema is one of the most magical people I have ever met. She writes literary, and really real and really raw literary. The emotional turmoil that we go through with our main character put me through emotional turmoil. Forever love Dante Medema. Daughter of the Siren Queen. This takes place after Daughter of the Pirate Queen and before Vengeance of the Siren Queen. I like this one. I love Alosa. I love her perspective. Ate this up. I love this series. Rephrase. I love the first 2. The third one threw me for a loop. The Prison Healer. Fantasy, a little bit of mystery, mostly just going through with characters in a fantasy world. So incredibly slow. So incredibly slow, but please stick with it. The whole series is worth it. I love this series so much. There's a romance, okay? Focus on the romance. Focus on the happiness that the romance brings you. Heartstopper Volume 3. I cannot differentiate between anything of this series, but I just love Heartstopper. Graphic novel, Alice Oserman. Very good. They fall in love. They, meaning men. Very, very queer. Very, very lovely. One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. One Dark Window had a very confusing ending that led me to be confused in the beginning of Two Twisted Crowns, but I did like it. It is totally 110% a beginning fantasy read though, and that's not a bad thing. For being a debut novel, it was good. It was really good. Good job. You can write a book. The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. Romance book. Oh my gosh. Catherine Center, the woman that you are. Please never stop writing romance. Literally, please. One of my favorite author discoveries of the year. I truly cannot put into words how much I love her romances. It is astronomical, insane. I love you. In not a weird way. Counting to Perfect. Another middle school read, but oddly related to a 12-year-old girl way too much. Strictly literary, strictly going through life with a 12-year-old for a little bit. Nothing crazy, but I did almost cry. Or maybe I did cry. I can't remember. Heartstopper Volume 5. I know Volume 4 was really sad, so Volume 5, thank you for being happy. I could not take another sad volume of Heartstopper. I would probably have a mental breakdown. Spectacular! Made me realize that I did not understand the Caraval magic system at all when I got back into reading 2 years ago. I think I'm going to have to reread the Caraval trilogy. But this was just okay. Fantasy, romance, do not read this before you read the trilogy. Apprentice to the Villain. It did not live up to book 1. I did not like this much as book 1. You're actually very high on this list. I don't know why you're so high. Probably because I have an emotional attachment to the characters, and I would feel bad if I rated it anything lower because I love the characters so much and obviously they're real people and I don't want them to think that I hate them. Fantasy, romance, mystery, but not a lot of plot going on in here. Very much felt like a filler book. Ward D. My favorite Frida McFadden book of the year. I am determined to become a Frida McFadden girly, and Ward D is the one that has almost gotten me there. Anything you could ever need. Mystery, thriller, super fun, don't trust anybody. wild ride, an absolutely wild ride. Swindle. This comes before Zoo Break by Gordon Corman, another middle school read. I truly love revisiting these characters. These are those middle schoolers who solve like really big mysteries. So entertaining and so funny. Three Mages and a Margarita. This is the book that takes place before Dark Arts and a Daiquiri. So funny. Literally so funny. 100% just for entertainment purposes. The writing in the story is nothing super duper crazy. Powerless. I am powerless with how sad this book made me. Fantasy, romance, very typical fantasy plot. Nothing crazy happened in here. I saw pretty much every twist coming. I'm gonna continue because I like the characters, but I am not attached to this in any way, shape, or form. I did not like it as much as everybody else did. So sorry. All In, the third book in the Natural series. This is my favorite book in the entire series. It is so good. I love the mystery. I love what we're solving in the mystery. So good. Don't like the first one? That's fine. Just read the third one. It's really, well, no, you can't really do that. But I love the number crunching in here. Like, oh, love Salome. Love Salome so much. Silver in the Bone absolutely emotionally wrecked me. Absolutely emotionally wrecked me. Oh my gosh, absolutely emotionally wrecked me. Fantasy, mystery, maybe a little, not thriller, but definitely eerie. There's a romance, it's completely back burner, but oh my gosh. I don't think I've read a fantasy quite like this one in a while, and I loved it. I love Silver in the Bone. So good. Hi. Okay. Eliza and Her Monsters. YA literary has a lot to do with online life again. I really need to stop relating to characters who are in like high school, middle school. It's honestly embarrassing for me. But as someone who has a very big online presence, I related to a lot of the things that Eliza was saying. Oh, okay. Red Rabbit single-handedly got me into reading more horror books. Love this one. Super duper complex, a whole lot of character perspectives to keep track of, but the way that they align is so beautiful. A big brain book, but I totally believe in you. You got this. The Maddest Obsession. I am madly obsessed with the Maid series. Oh my gosh, this one was so good. Dark Romance Mafia. Once again, he's rich. Are we seeing a trend here in my dark romance picks? Heartstopper volumes 1, 2, and 4. Same rating. Love this series so much. So impactful, but also so like fun and lighthearted at the same time. The Gilded Cage. Ignore the bookmark. I made my mom read this series. She's currently on book 2. Once again, love the Prison Healer trilogy. I know the first book is slow. Please sit through it. It gets so much better. It gets so much better. The Tattooist of Auschwitz made me realize how much I love reading historical fiction. Nazis, Germany, World War II, that type of vibe. Depressing, but also very hopeful. I really like this one. Assistant to the Villain. Absolutely lived up to the hype. So funny, so witty. Love the characters. This was amazing. I understand why people love this so much. Kingsley Has My Heart. As do these characters. I want to like strangle them because of how much I love them. Fantasy romance. You know the vibes. You know the vibes. It's my norm. The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. Horror, really weird dynamic of people that come together to work together. Oh my gosh, Crystal Sutherland is so good. So good. I love The Invocations so much. I binge read it in I think 4 hours. Like I literally love it. Characters who didn't think would come together to solve something and they did, and it's weird and it's creepy and it's eerie and it's a horror and it's so weird but so lovely. In like the best way possible. Fairy Tale. An absolute behemoth of a novel. I am so happy that I picked up. My first ever Stephen King book I've ever read. I'm so glad he wrote a fantasy book. This was perfectly executed. Wasn't too long, wasn't too slow. I mean, I love his attention to detail when he writes novels. This is absolutely stunning. Mr. Stephen King, if you have not written another fantasy novel, I highly recommend that you do because this was delicious and I would like to read another fantasy novel by you. Thank you. I will be visiting your horror genre in 2025. I think I'm ready for it. I don't think you scare me or intimidate me as much. Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. Hello Catherine Center. I love you. I love your romances. Oh my gosh. Takes place in New York City. She's a famous painter. I can't give that away. She has to go for brain surgery so that makes her facial recognition completely off so she can't see people for like 6 months. Oh my gosh, an insane love story with just like so much going on. It's like real life and it's beautiful and it's perfect and I love it. Light Lark. A reread. A very big reread for me this year, but oh my gosh, I love it. This is the book that got me back into reading almost 2 years ago. I was so happy to visit this world again and I have a new appreciation for the ending now that I know that a certain man is not like 500 years old with a giant beard. If you know the vibes, you know the vibes. And if you want to know the vibes, it's in my rereading books that had a huge impact on my life video that came out a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Lot of lore behind that. Divine Rivals. I finished this over a week ago. Still mentally, physically, and emotionally recovering from this because what in the actual heck? Vlog coming soon. I loved this. Fantasy, romance, not like any fantasy romance I've ever read before. Totally new plot vibe, but so good. The Last List of Mabel Beaumont. The first book I read this year, I can still remember the impact that it had on me. Literary fiction about this sweet old lady who just lost her husband. Has a lot to do with like inner turmoil and how you express and view yourself. It is a stunning novel. So stunning. Roxy deals a lot with the drugs and addiction, but I think that the representation that was held in here is so beautiful. Took me 4 months to finally pick this up off my TBR because I was expecting it to be boring, but my god was it not. It is beautiful, 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 beautiful story of just so much bad and so much good and just so touching. One of my favorite reads of the year. It was so good. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I was quite nervous this was going to end up a lot lower on the list. It did not. I fell for it. I love it. So beautiful. Fantasy, romance, dragons, fighting, people falling in love, people not falling in love, mystery, deviation? Deception. Not deviation, but definitely deception. I am unfortunately emotionally invested in this. Whoops. The Blackthorn Key, The Mark of the Plague, and The Assassin's Curse. First 3 books in the Blackthorn Key series by Kevin Sands. This is my kryptonite. This is my childhood version of Percy Jackson. I went back to Tabum this year. I cannot wait to read the rest of this series this year, like in 2025. Oh my gosh. 1600 Mysteries where you're running around with a 14-year-old who has way more wits than I do. So funny, so good. One of my favorite all-time series of ever, just forever. So good. The Blood Trader. Final book in the Prison Healer trilogy. I have no words, but also so many. I cried at the end. Not because I was sad about how the book ended, but because I was sad to leave the world and the characters. My favorite series of 2024, honestly. I adore this. I love this. I would do anything to read this series again. I genuinely love it so much. I'm glad my mom died. I am glad that I read this book because, oh my gosh, so much perspective was given. So much. It's a memoir about Jeanette McCurdy and her acting career as she was a child actor, and wow, impactful as hell. And that's coming from someone who didn't watch any of the shows she was in growing up. I gotta read more memoirs, honestly. The Darkest Temptation. I love this book so much. It might be considered a crime how much I love it. Dark Romance Mafia. The last book in the Maid series so far. I think she's writing more. I literally cannot. I love their relationship. Is it Ronan and Mia? I love them. I love when the men fall first in romance books. I genuinely do. And now we take a brief intermission to talk about a couple of books that are not on my list. Let me see if I can find the data on them. Lovely. So I'm Blind. We also have The Inmate by Frida McFadden. 3.5 out of 5 stars. Wasn't my favorite, but still really good. Mystery, thriller, eerie, don't trust anyone, trust everyone. Give your wits up. Get your brain out the window. This is mind-bending twisting. Almost as good as Ward D. Very, very close to being as good as Ward D. Remarkable. Another 3.5 out of 5. A childhood reread that I absolutely love. This had such a big impact on my reading, and while it may look dumb to other people, I love it. Main character's name is Jane, and she lives in a town called Remarkable where everyone is very, very good at something, and she's not. So beautiful, and so sad, and so touching, and so not important at all. And finally, Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Another 3.5 out of 5. I have so much love for this book. I don't know why people didn't like it as much as the first one. I did, although it did have a little bit of filler book type vibes. Oh, hello. And now the other one's here. Okay. I really need Violet and Xaden to have a conversation, but other than that, this was really good. I love it. But with that is, I think, every single book that I read in 2024. I don't think I forgot any. Obviously, I forgot a couple while going through, but I don't think I skimmed over any other ones. I think this is it. In case you were wondering, my goal for this year was to read 75 books, and I blew that out of the freaking water. So, to wrap up our time together today, we are going to go over my reading goals for 2025. I have actually sat down and already figured these out, and I only have 2. Last year I just had 1. Last year I just wanted to read 75 books, and I didn't give myself any other criteria or things like that because I had just started reading big time and didn't want to ruin my reading for the year. But this time I'm taking on 2 goals because I totally think I can do that. The first one being how many books I want to read this year. After a lot of deliberation and thinking about it, I'm gonna go for 150 books. And yeah, so I am completely aware that I only read 115 this year and that is like a 45 book jump. I don't think my brain has realized that yet though. So please don't tell it. It's not ready for that information. But I truly think that with the way my life is going right now, I'll be able to hit 150 books. We'll see. I really hope it doesn't change throughout the year. I really think I can do it. That's only like 13 books a month. Like, that's fine. I can do that. Now that I've said that, I'm going to end up with like a 6-month long book slump. But with reading 150 books, I would also obviously like to read my 2025 TBR. That video came out a couple weeks ago, 25 books I want to read in 2025. That is my yearly TBR, and I am determined to get them all off of my TBR this year. I did a terrible job this year. I genuinely did so bad. Let me pull it up. Totally forgot to talk about this at the beginning, but it's fine. So I had a 24 book yearly TBR for 2024 because that just makes sense to me. And I only read 14 of them. There were 11 books that I did not even open. I didn't even look at. Great job, me. Hold on. Am I a liar? I am so a liar. Oh my gosh, Divine Rivals was on my 2024 TBR. I read 15 books off of my 2024 TBR. But that one doesn't really count for goal because that's obvious. I want to read my TBR and I'm determined to actually do it this time. And then my second/third goal is that I want to read 40 books from my middle school section. I would actually love to read more than that, but you know, we will see what happens as the year goes on. Minimum, we're reading 40. That's totally doable. I can totally do that. But with that, thank you so much for wrapping up my 2024 reading with me. This is actually insane. When I was pulling these off the shelves, I thought there'd be so many more books, but I did a lot of Kindle audio and library reading this year. Like, I didn't even realize that this is all that I have for my physical stash. But I hope that your 2024 reading was as amazing and awesome as mine was, and I cannot wait to see what reading adventures we go on in 2025. I hope that your guys' book worlds treat you just as well as mine treat me. Until the next time that we see each other. Y'all have an absolutely lovely week, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye!